Hey guys, tonight we are curling up beside very old fires to listen to the way houses learn to breathe. Before chimneys straightened their backs and stoves learned to whisper, rooms wore a fog of usefulness. Smoke that dried rafters, cured meat, kept insects doubtful, and yet stung throats and eyes. We'll wander through smoke holes and hooded hearths, black kitchens and clay stoves, wind catchers and winter vents, following the quiet engineering that turned flame into comfort and air into a companion. If unhurried history helps you drift off, go ahead and subscribe. Let the next cozy night of forgotten craft find you when the lights are low. Breathe out. Let the coals settle. We'll move gently. When rooms feel fussy, it's rarely fate. It's a small habit with a big shadow. Tonight is a calm sweep through stubborn myths, common mistakes, and the tiniest adjustments that change how a house inhales and exhales. No lectures, just 30 quiet wins you can fold into a week, myths that make rooms tired a tiny constant crack wastes heat. Short, deliberate purges, wide open 3 to 10 minutes. Exchange air faster and cheaper than all-day pinholes. Use big and brief or balanced ventilation, not the eternal sliver. If the fire looks lively, the air is fine. A roaring flame can be starving the room. Lively not equal to healthy. Watch CO and give combustion its own air path. Plants always improve air. They help humidity and mood, not ventilation. Use them like spice. Too many in a damp corner is wool in summer. Recirculating range hoods are enough. They polish grease. They do not remove steam or knocks. If you can, duct outside. If you can't, lower heat, lid pans, and air after. Mold equals dirty. Mold equals damp plus stillness plus a food. Fix the climate. Cleaning is Act 2. You can feel CO. You can't. By CO alarms. Full stop. Tight houses can't breathe. They breathe on purpose. Tight shell plus balanced ventilation equals calmer lungs. Bigger equipment is safer. Oversized fans and furnaces short cycle, get loud, and leave corner stale. Right size is quiet size. Mistakes that keep rooms sulking opposing doors, unedited. A line of fire cross-draft bullies flame and noses. Break the line with a screen. Crack windward a coin, leeward a finger. Filters that fit like metaphors. A MERV 13 that leaks at the frame is a polite fiction. Tape the edges. Check static pressure or at least the calendar. Hood at gale, no makeup air. You just inhaled from the garage. Add a dedicated inlet by the range, or run the hood on low and purge after. Sleeping into a corner. Beds flush to exterior walls invite condensation and cough. Pull them a hand's breadth out. Let warm air visit. Curtains smothering radiators. Raise hems an inch. Warmth wants to rinse the glass, not polish fabric. Wet laundry in the living room, no exit. Create a drying nook by a leeward vent and do a short purge once you hang. Dehumidifier set to dessert. Below -40% RH in winter is sore throat season. Aim 40 to 50% winter, 45 to 55% summer. Bathroom fans switched off with the light. Use a delay timer or train and mirror honest rule. Fan runs until the fog is gone. Chimney cleaned by omen instead of calendar. Soot doesn't read portents. Sweep annually, twice if you smolder through shoulder season. HEPA on high for an hour, off the rest. Run low, always. Noise breeds off switches. One loud purifier in the hall. Place by people, not doorways, bedside, desk, couch. Basement fixed with heat alone. Warm water is still water. Ensure drainage, slope, dehumidification, and airflow. Tiny fixes with big lungs mark the damper rod. Scratch clear, cook asleep where your hand lands. Night brains love braille. Teach the soft river. Daily game. Find the cool ankle draft at dusk. Adjust until it runs where you sit, not where you sigh. Interior storms. Magnetic or clip-in second panes turn weeping windows into shy ones for winter months. Jump the door. A A closed bedroom needs a pressure path, 3/4 undercut or a jumper grill high or low. Rug as sensor. If the rug's edge curls near a wall, that wall is cold and damp. Invite sun, pull furniture out, or insulate. Tray of pebbles by heat. Boot melt and towel drips evaporate near warmth, not into corners. Squeegee ritual. 1 minute after showers removes cups of water, the room won't have to negotiate. Quiet hood, clean baffles. Grease doubles the noise and halves the flow. Pop baffles into the dishwasher monthly. As choreography. A cheap monitor teaches you your home's tempo. Purge before bed, between guests, after soup. Right breath on the calendar. Quarterly filters. Seasonal ERV core wash. Solstice humidifier descale. First cold, flu brush. First pollen, step up to MERV 13. Fast room recipes. 5 favorites. Smoky stew night, no outside duct lids on. Hood recirc on low. Crack leeward window a coin for 3 minutes at the simmer start and 3 minutes after serving. HEPA near the table on low winter morning reset. Windows wide 5 minutes. Bedding to light. Damper clear. Kettle whispering. Curtains an inch above radiators, summer siesta. No AC close at 9 a.m. Shades down, west screens tied. Damp sweep in the hall. Nap leeward. High vent cracked. Reopen at 8 p.m. Run a night river low in a high-out, wildfire spike. Seal, latch, tape. HVAC to recirc with MERV 13. Build a clean air room. HEPA low 24/7. Purge only when AQI dips, big and brief, guest evening. Pre-ventilate to less than 800 ppm co. HEPA by the sofa. Range hood low. Between courses. 2-minute purge. Candles. Save for rain tiny toolkit. Fits in a drawer. Pocket hygrometer co-display. Painter's tape roll clipped to a sash. Spare MERV 13 and 1 HEPA pre-filter in a bag with a month sharpied. Squeegee, microfiber stack, small brush for flu lip. Magnetic labels. Clear a cook sleep. Boost 20 minutes on bath fan. Change filter dates on the furnace. None of this is heroic. It's choreography for air. Invite, guide, release. Rehearsed until rooms keep the rhythm when you forget. The dividends sound like ordinary life. Windows that don't cry, towels that dry without negotiation, stews that perfume without haze, sleep that lands in 3 breaths. Breath becomes background again, the quietest luxury a house can give. We talk about drafts and chimneys, but much of indoor air comes from quiet chemistry, glues in furniture, paint curing, soap blooming into fragrance, a pan making know when a blue flame licks cold steel, a candle lifting soot into a poem your lungs don't want to read. Tonight we walk through the unseen, VOX, aldehydes, ozone, particles, microfibers, and the calm ways a house can lower the volume without turning into a lab. The cast of invisible characters VOX, volatile organic compound solvents, fragrances, plasticizers. They smell like new, pine, lemon, or nothing at all. Some are harmless at low levels. Some, e.g., benzene, are not charming at any level. Formaldehyde and other aldehydes, off-gas from pressed wood resins, some fabrics, some finishes, lively in warm, dry rooms. Nitrogen dioxide from gas stoves or ovens, unvented heaters, candles, cigarettes. Irritant to lungs and noses, especially for kids. Ozone, sneaks in during city smog. Also made by a few ionizing gadgets, avoid. Ozone reacts with terpenes, pine or lemon smells, to make secondary particles. Particles, PM smoke, cooking aerosols, dust from skin and books, outside soot. Microfibers, tumble from fleece and carpets. Mostly nuisance, sometimes carrier for other chemicals, where it starts, and how to say not so loud. Furniture and finishes prefer solid wood. Metal, glass, linoleum, wool, cotton over mystery composites. If you must buy pressed wood, look for NAF Ulif resins or Carb 2 TSCA Title 6 labels, low formaldehyde. Low-dash Novosi paints and varnishes matter, but so does the base chemistry. Lime wash, clay paint, soap-finished wood, hard wax oils that actually cure, textiles and foam, new foam and synthetic rugs off-gas more. Favor wool rugs, cotton batting, down a feather, if allergies allow. Skip forever stain guards and anti-odor coatings. They trade one story for another. Cleaning and fragrance pine lemon terpenes smell like virtue but become particles when they meet ozone. Choose fragrance-free or simple soaps. Ventilate after you mop. Avoid ozone generators and ionic air cleaners. Ozone is not a purifier. It's a reagent. Flame and heat gas cooking makes no and ultrafine particles. Best fix: a ducted range hood on low before heat, during, and 3 to 5 minutes after. If you can't duct, lids, smaller flame, back burners, closer to hood, portable HEPA nearby, and a leeward window cracked a coin. Candles or incense, keep rare, short, and away from walls. Trim wicks. Choose unscented beeswax. Run HEPA on low while they're lit and purge after. Unvented heaters and indoor grills are non-starters. If it burns inside, it vents outside or it doesn't live here, sinks. Where the bad stuff goes to stop being your problem. Ventilation is the universal solvent, HRV, VRV low and always. Short, big purges. Filtration, MERV 13 in ducts for particles. Seal edges. Portable HEPA for PM and wildfire smoke near beds or desks. Activated carbon, or carbon plus zeolite, in purifiers for some vox and odors. Slow, not magic. Replace often during smoke or fragrance weeks. Materials as buffers. Lime or clay plasters adsorb and later release a bit of moisture and certain vox. Charcoal panels in closets quietly sip smells. The bake-out, new stuff without the headache, when you bring home new. Sofa. Rug, cabinets. Give the house a tiny commissioning. Unwrap outdoors if possible. Recycle plastic. Shake dust. Place in a sacrificial room with door, leeward window, and a portable HEPA plus carbon on low. Purge cycles. 10 minutes wide open morning and evening for the first week. Then ordinary ventilation. Warm the room gently, 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above normal, day 1. Vox leave faster in warmth, then ventilate. Nose test on day 3 and day 7. If it still shouts, it lives there another week. Kitchens, where chemistry and lunch share a table pan then flame, not flame then pan, cuts no spike. Prefer electric kettles and plug-in griddles for long boils or simmers. Keep oil temps modest. Blue haze equals particles. Wipe the range cool, not hot. Hot solvents volatilize. Clean hood baffles monthly. Greasy filters are a flow tax. Bedrooms. Lungs on holiday. Softest air lives here. Ban fragrances. Plug-in centers. Incense. Launder new sheets once. Sun them if you can. UV plus breeze beats perfume. If you share space with a gas kitchen, run a small HEPA on low at the bedhead. Close the bedroom door while cooking, then air and reopen after basements, garages, cabinet solvents, fuels, paints, lid tight. Store in a detached or extremely vented area. Never in the utility room where the ERV might borrow their breath. Garage air creeps indoors through door frames. Weather strip, add a door sweep. Keep it slightly negative with a tiny exhaust or keep the house slightly positive with balanced ventilation. Cabinets can be microsmog. A thin bead of shellac on edge grain and a line of tape over raw. Particle board edges tame off-gassing measurements. That keep drama out of voice co. Under tilde 1000 ppm in occupied hours. Tells you dilution is happening. PM 2.5 stays low except for cooking. If it lingers, upgrade filters, adjust routines. Formaldehyde. Consumer meters are wobbly. Rely on labels plus bake-out plus nose. No, few cheap sensors are trustworthy. Stand-in strategy is a discipline plus post-cook purges, seasonal scripts, write them on the fridge, winter, dry, RH 40 to 50% so noses heal. Avoid overhumidifying. High humidity makes formaldehyde release faster. Fresh paint. Cure in a spare room with HRV boost and short purges for a weak spring, pollen plus wet. Ventilate at night early. Filter by day. Wash window screens. Carbon pads and purifiers help spring smells. Rugs to sun. Closets opened. Lime-washed walls get a friendly wipe with damp, not wet. Cloth summer. Ozone. Midday air can be oxidizing. Ventilate morning and evening. Run ERV plus MERV 13 daytime. Keep terpenes, pine lemon cleaners, diffusers, minimal when ozone is high. Don't cook secondary particles. Autumn, new stuff season. Many people refurnish now. Bake out rooms. HEPA plus carbon on low. Purge sacrificial room. Then admit to the house. The quiet yes and no list yes. Lime or clay paints, solid wood, wool, glass, soap finish. Hard wax oil, fully cured. Fragrance-free cleaners. Ducted hood. Lids. MERV 13. HEPA. Carbon. ERV on low. No. Ozone purifiers. Unvented gas heaters. Recirc hoods as a substitute for ducts. Forever chemistry stain guards. Routine candles or incense. Storing solvents with your boiler. More pine scent to smell clean. Tiny fixes that change the air tomorrow. Add a carbon stage to your bedroom HEPA for odor sips. Put a door sweep on the garage door to the house. Shellac the raw cut edges inside particle board cabinets. Make a drying rack near an exhaust path so laundry doesn't turn living rooms into estuaries. Park a doormat duo. Coir outside. Washable inside. Less grit equals less chemistry ground into floors. Swap one weekly deep clean scent storm for daily 5-minute resets. Spot wipe. Air. Done. The goal isn't sterile. It's predictably kind. Rooms that edit chemistry with materials, ventilation, and small habits feel like a page with the right margins. Generous, uncluttered, easy on the eyes and lungs. You'll notice it as the absence of things. No dull headache after mopping, no cough after cooking, no new couch cloud, just the familiar quiet of paper and wood and a line of citrus from lime. That's air behaving. That's a house that remembers how to breathe. The story of indoor air is not finished. It is getting quieter. We are learning to braid old instincts, small fires, short purges, lime, shade, with new tools, airtight shells, heat recovery lungs, sensors that whisper numbers, and the result is comfort that barely raises its voice. Tonight, how Passive House and other low-energy standards think about air, how to borrow their calm without rebuilding your life, and how vernacular tricks still carry the day. The shell that doesn't sulk at the heart of modern quiet is a continuous air barrier, a shell that lets you decide where air comes and goes. No drafts at baseboards, no mystery cold on the back of your neck, no smoke sneaking in around a sash. Walls get insulation that stays dry, windows lose their rattles, doors learn to seal like a good book. This isn't to hold your breath. It's to choose your breath. Airtightness target. Passive standards aim near 0.6 ACH 50. Air changes air hour at 50 pascals. You don't need that number to sleep well, but tighter shells make ventilation predictable. What it feels like. No hiss by outlets, no winter stripe on the floor. Fewer spiders writing essays in corners, ventilation as a heartbeat with leaks tamed. The house breathes on purpose through an HRV, ERV. Fresh air in bedrooms and living. Exhaust in kitchen and baths, balanced so pressure stays kind. The core shares heat, and with ERVs, some moisture, so air swaps without throwing comfort away. Run low and always, boost for showers, guests, or frying. Filters. MERV 13 at the handler. Washable pre-filters at the ERV, HRV. Clean quarterly. Vacuum the core when seasons turn. Intakes placed high and clean, not driveway. Not drier, are worth more than any spec sheet. Heat without fuss, cool without glare heat pumps, mini splits or ducts, keep temperature even. Fans drift on low like a cat's breath. No combustion indoors, no flue drama, less dryness than scorched air furnaces. In smoke or pollen weeks, recirculate plus filter, then purge when the sky apologizes. Oversizing is noise. Right sizing is calm. Let steady, Low output do the work. Daylight, shade, and the passive engine geometry still wins. Low inner, high out. A small shaded inlet paired with a high leeward vent gives a gentle stack pull. Overhangs or awnings. Catch high summer sun. Admit low winter light. Cut glare so eyes stop squinting and breathing slows. Courtyard or stairwell or clerestory. These are organs. Give them closes for storms and a cord you can reach from the floor, materials that help more than their braglet surfaces cooperate with air. Lime and clay plasters buffer humidity swings. They also make light into kindness. Wood and linoleum breathe. Vinyl traps murmurs you don't want. Tile and brick near stove store heat like memory. Rug sun easily and forget spills, sensors you forget until you need them to time purges. Less than 1000 ppm equals crisp head. RH to steer winter 40 to 50%, summer 45 to 55%. PM 2.5 to learn which recipes bloom particles and which habits clear them. Then put the screens away and let routine take over, retrofits that do 80% of the magic. You don't need scaffolding to earn quiet breath. Seal the obvious, attic hatch, rim joists, leaky sashes, fewer drafts, more obedient ventilation. ERV through wall for bedrooms if ducts are impossible. MERV 13 in the air handler. Tape the filter edges. Quiet hood actually ducted out. Give it a tiny makeup vent nearby. Interior storms for winter glass. Trickle vents for gentle, year-round sip. Portable HEPA on low where you sit and where you sleep. Vernacular still leads old houses were laboratories of kindness. Reed screens equals dimmer switches for wind and glare. Oculus and clerestory equals passive exhaust that never complains. Tanner rocket cores equals compact, clean flame geometry. Wind catchers equals night air gathered like water. Lime day equals a reset for light and lungs. Modern shells don't cancel these. They amplify them. A tight house with a shaded inlet, a high vent, lime on the walls. And an ERV humming softly is the 21st century cousin of the soot-smart kitchen and the roof that knew stars. Health. Gently quantified fewer colds. Dilution plus filtration plus mid-RH lower airborne dose and help noses defend themselves. Fewer headaches. Co-held under ~1000 ppm. No CO from indoor flame. Less dry heat. Better sleep. Even temps. Steady humidity. Silent air paths. Cleaner surfaces. Soot confined to filters. Steam escorted out. Oils caught in washable baffles. A small calendar. Because breath loves routine. Daily. Short morning purge. Hood 3 minutes after cooking. Boost bath till mirror honest. Weekly. Vacuum returns. Rinse pre-filters. Sun rugs or throw them over a chair near light. Seasonal. Swap MERVs. Wash ERV core. Descale humidifiers. Brush flues if you keep flame. Wildfire pollen. Build the clean air room. Step filters up. Recirculate. Then purge between spikes. The feeling you're designing for it isn't gadget joy. It's background ease. Rooms that smell of wood, paper, a line of citrus from lime. Windows that clear themselves. Beds that find the middle of the breath. Talk that lasts longer because nobody's rubbing their eyes. You notice it most when you leave and come back. The house greets you with a soft vowel of clean air, as if it kept breathing on your behalf. Build for that. Old wisdom, new lungs. Small rituals. The flame may rest more often. The tiled stove may be remembered rather than fed. The wind catcher might be a duct and a quiet fan. But the music is the same. Invite, guide, release. The house knows the tune now. So do you. Long before we could name microbes, people smelled trouble and called it miasma, bad air with bad manners. They weren't entirely wrong. The places where breath felt stale were often the places where sickness lingered. Tonight we'll drift from that old intuition to what we know now, how viruses, aerosols, particles, and humidity braid into health, and how a house can practice medicine without becoming a clinic. The old hunch, the new names miasma blamed fog. Germ theory blamed bugs. The truce is aerosols, tiny moisture packets that carry virus, smoke, pollen, and the day stories. They ride the room's slow rivers for minutes to hours. Surfaces matter some. Air matters more. Good rooms don't panic. They dilute, filter, and settle. Dilute with outside air, purge or ventilate. Filter with MERV or HEPA. Settle and deactivate by keeping RH-40-50% winter, so droplets don't float forever nor crack into dust.co. The lantern in the Fogsio isn't a pathogen. It's a crowd counter. When the number climbs, exhaled air is staying. Targets: under 800 to 1000 ppm feels crisp. 1200 plus nudges you to purge. 1500 plus is a story your head will tell as a yawn. Use a small NDIR co-monitor where people actually breathe, desk, table height. It teaches timing, crack the leeward vent, boost the ERV, 5-minute purge, numbers drop, shoulders drop, humidity. The silent nurse viruses dislike middle humidity. Too dry, less than 30% droplets shrink, hang, and nasal membranes crack. Too wet, greater than 60% surfaces stay clammy and molds interview for tenancy. Winter, add a bit of clean humidity, kettle, humidifier with distilled water, weekly clean, toward 40 to 50%. Summer, dehumidify to 45-55%. Let ERV shed incoming moisture. Don't let basements invent weather, filtration, combs for breath central HVAC. MERV 13 is the health sweet spot if your fan can handle it. Seal the filter's edges. Room HEPA, size for 2 to 5 air changes a hour. Run low, always. Place where people are, not in doorways. DIY Corsi Rosenthal. 4 MERV 13 panels plus box fan equals calm lungs during wildfire or flu season ventilation. Fresh without fuss background. ERV HRV at a low, steady rate. Boost for 20 to 30 minutes after showers, frying, or guests. Purge moments. Big open for 3 to 10 minutes. Morning, pre-sleep, between visitors. Heat in walls survives. Air swaps quickly. Cross drafts. Low inlet plus high outlet, leeward bias. Screens or louvers act as dimmers, not switches. UV and light. Quiet disinfection upper room UVGI, properly installed, and induct UV can inactivate airborne microbes without noise. They are supplements, not substitutes, for air and filters. Daylight also helps. UV and visible light discourage microbial melodrama on surfaces, kitchens, tables, and talk laughter is airflow. When people gather, pre-ventilate, less than 800 ppm before guests. Hood on low if cooking, lids on. Short sizzle, longer simmer. Windows cracked leeward. Portable HEPA nearby. Between courses, a 2-minute purge is the kindest palate cleanser. Sick room etiquette at home if someone's unwell. Make a tender quarantine. Choose a small room with a tight door. Give it a portable HEPA. Slight negative pressure helps. Crack a dedicated exhaust path, bath fan nearby, while supplying fresh air under the door from the house's clean loop. Deliver tea, room temp water, and meals to the threshold. Leave windows for timed, brief airings. Laundry travels in a closed bag. Later, air the hall for 5 minutes. City haze, pollen weeks, wildfire days 1 playbook, tuned by sensors. Watch AQI PM 2.5 and co. Seal and recirculate during bad hours. Run HEPA. Step filters up. Pause large exhausts unless you have dedicated makeup air. When outside clears even briefly, purge, large, fast exchange. After, HEPA high for an hour. Damp dust, vacuum with HEPA. Swap filters, schools and work nooks at a desk. A small HEPA at knee height blowing forward. A plant used as spice, not swamp. Light on the ceiling, not in your eyes, co-visible. Classrooms or homeschool rooms. Target 6+ equivalent air changes per hour with a mix of outdoor air and HEPA. Seat by supply, not by complaint. Old wisdom with new nouns. Don't let the room get stuffy. Co under 1000. Keep a kettle on in winter, RH 40 to 50%, but clean it. Open the window after guests' short big purge. Keep the chimney clean. Filters and ERV cores on schedule. Sun the bedding UV plus purge plus dry textiles, tiny checklist, print and forget. Daily, morning purge. Hood 3 minutes after cooking. Boost bath fan till mirror is honest. Weekly, vacuum returns. Wash pre-filters. Launder pillowcases, they are filters for faces. Monthly, check CO in favorite rooms. Inspect HVAC filter. Wipe window weep holes. Seasonal, service ERV, HRV. Swap to MERV 13 in illness or smoke seasons. Descale humidifiers. Sun rugs, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be predictably kind. Rooms that dilute, filter, and hold a gentle humidity make cold shorter, sleep deeper, and mornings clear. It's the same craft we've been practicing since smoke holes and soot-black rafters, only now the house knows the numbers as well as the feelings. The result is ordinary magic. Laughter without stuffy heads, winter without sandpaper throats, summer evenings that taste like clean linen. Breath becomes background, invisible, trustworthy, soft as a tiled stove's midnight warmth. If yesterday's houses taught breath by experiment, today we can sketch it on paper first. A good plan is a lung drawn to scale, inlets where air is kind, outlets where warmth can leave with grace, rooms arranged so smells become memories, bread, not mistakes, fry. This is a field guide for designing or retrofitting a home that breathes on purpose, using old wisdom, quiet physics, and tools that hum rather than raw. Point 1, sight, wind, and the first line start outside. Walk the lot at dawn and again at late afternoon. Note where air feels like a ribbon and where it sulks. Planting and outbuilding should comb wind, not block it. A belt of trees or a porous fence upwind slows gusts without forcing them over the roof. Keep inlets on the quiet side, away from driveways, flues, idling, or kitchen hoods, so fresh really means fresh. Rule of thumb, if you can hear the street at an inlet, move it or baffle it. Elevation helps. High inlets see cleaner air. Low ones collect cool in summer nights. Point 2. Orient for light you can soften windows and not just views. They are valves. South light gives honest heat in winter. East is gentle for mornings and kitchens. West is often a bully. Shade it with trees, fins, or deep eaves. Pair big view glass with nearby operable vents, or it becomes a picture of stale. Stack couple. A low, shaded operable window paired with a high leeward vent makes a passive engine. Overhang math. Quick depth almost equal to 0.5 times window height to catch high summer sun and admit low winter sun. Tune locally. Point 3. Sections that breathe, not just floor plans. Breath is vertical. Draw a section and make a path. Cool in at shin height from shade. Warm out near the crown. Clerestories, stairwells, atria, and wind catchers are not drama. They are organs. Give them closable lids for storms and extremes. Stack effect target. A 2 to 3 m, 6 to 10 feet. Vertical separation between low inlet and high outlet gives a gentle, useful pull. Control. Every tall space needs a damper or window you can command with a pole, cord. Or actuator. Point 4. Rooms by temperament. Hot or quiet, or smelly or wet. Put the weathermakers where the house can edit them. Kitchen. Along an exterior wall with a ducted hood run short and straight. Provide a dedicated makeup air trickle so the hood doesn't drink from bedrooms or flues. Baths and laundry. Group vertically to share short exhaust runs. Add boost switches and delay timers. Quiet rooms. Sleep or work leeward side. Separated from kitchens by a door and a meter of hallway that acts as an airlock. Point 5. The two-loop idea. Fresh versus dirty. Imagine 2 braided circuits. Clean loop. Bedrooms. Living. Study. Served by supply air. From ERV HRV. Relieved high. Dirty loop. Kitchen. Baths. Laundry. Steadily exhausted. Doors with undercuts or jump ducts. So makeup air comes from the clean loop. Not the garage. Balance so the house is slightly positive. A whisker more supply than exhaust. To reduce infiltration of dust and smoke through cracks. Point 6. Materials that buffer. Not bottle walls of filters with memory. Lime and clay plasters sip and release moisture. smoothing spikes from showers or stew. Avoid plastic paints and vinyl wallpaper on exterior walls. They trap secrets. Pick floors that dry, wood, tile, linoleum, and rugs you can sun. Use solid wood and breathable finishes where noses live. Winter comfort band. 40 to 50% relative humidity makes lungs and books both civil. Summer sanity. 45-55%. Higher invites mold. Lower becomes static and sore throats. 0.7. Passive plus active. A polite duet openings do the poetry. Machines do the meter. ERV HEV. Run low, always. Boost after showers and cooking. Place the intake high and clean, the exhaust downwind of noses. Filtration. MERV 13 at the air handler. Seal filter edges. In bedrooms, a quiet portable HEPA on low is worth 3 noisy ones you'll switch off. Heat pumps, mini splits. Favor continuous low fan to mix without drafts. Keep returns unblocked. In smoke days, recirculate and filter. Purge when the sky apologizes. 0.8. Chimneys and stoves. If you need flame, even one fireplace changes the air math. Give it outside air, a sized flue with an insulated liner, and dampers with positions you can feel in the dark. Put a CO alarm on the sleeping level and another near the stove. If the range hood is muscular, add a makeup vent or it will backdraft the flue. 0.9. Numbers to sketch on the margin vent sizing. Rule of thumb fresh air tilde 0.3 to 0.5 ACH, air changes a hour in occupied hours. Or design per local code plus co-target. Aim 900 to 1000 ppm. Trickle vent. 4 to 8 LRS per bedroom is a civil start. Exhausts. Bath 25 to 50 LOS, boost. Kitchen hood 100 to 150 LOS, quiet ducted. Door undercuts. Tilde 15-20 mm, 3/4, to allow return from closed rooms. Filter cadence. Inspect monthly in polliner smoke seasons. Change when pressure drop rises. Tilde 0.1, 0.2 in. WC over clean. 0.10. Details that behave like good manners. Transoms above doors let warmth leave without slamming the door on sound. Sills with a shallow tray. In summer, a saucer of water near an inlet sweetens a dry room. In winter, a lamp there lifts the microdraft. Screens and louvers. Think of them as dimmers for wind and glare. Landing spots for wet. Pebbled trays by radiators. Drying rails where exhaust can shepherd vapor out. 0.11. Retrofitting. Gently, you don't need to rebuild to breathe better. Cut trickle inlets into existing frames. Add interior storms. Convert a long, scalding range hood to a short, polite duct and give it a tiny makeup vent nearby. Slip a stainless liner into a lazy chimney. Install a through-wall ERV for a bedroom if ductwork is impossible. Add a jump duct or return grill between an often closed room and the hall. 0.12. Rituals become architecture. Design won't save a house from neglect. Write breath into the calendar. Morning purge 5 minutes wide. Hood 3 minutes after fry. Boost bath fan till the mirror is honest. Sweep flues when leaves turn. Vacuum ERV cores when fruit appears. Test CO a co each solstice. A home that breathes well is mostly a home whose people remember. 0.13. Psychology of air, the quiet dividend. Rooms that breathe change how voices sound and how decisions feel. Low-co is clearer thinking. Steady humidity is kinder sleep. Filtered air means mornings without that sandpaper throat. You don't notice good air in the moment. You notice you laughed longer, read later, argued shorter, and woke easier. That's architecture's soft victory. Design breath first and the rest aligns. Energy bills shrink because ventilation is deliberate, not leaky. Surfaces stay clean because soot and steam have paths. Plants are happier. Instruments gather dust because you don't need to check them as often. The home stops scolding and starts humming. The same note your grandmother's tiled stove kept at midnight or your neighbor's wind catcher tapped once after moonrise. Houses don't ask for miracles. They ask for manners repeated. This is a quiet walk through, kitchen to bath, bedroom to basement, roof to lane, gathering small adjustments that turn smoky sighs into calm breath. Think of it as teaching each room its best voice. Entry and hall air begins at the door. A brush seal that kisses the threshold without bullying keeps drafts from arriving as gossip. A slim trickle vent above the lintel gives the house a polite first breath. Coat hooks live a half step away from the warmest wall so wet wool can dry in moving air, not paint a cold corner with its memory. A shallow tray of pebbles near the radiator catches boot melt. Evaporation goes where heat is, not where plaster frets. Kitchen, this is where weather is cooked. A hood that actually exhausts outdoors is worth more than metal that shines. Low noise wins because you'll use it. Keep baffles clean. Grease is a throttle on air. Lids are humidistats with handles. Use them. Pot skirts or tight burner pan fits mean less flame, less steam, more dinner. If your range sits along an exterior wall, give it a small dedicated makeup vent. Winter, cracked a coin. Summer, generous, so the hood doesn't steal from the fireplace or the neighbor room's patience. After you fry, let the hood hum 3 extra minutes. The room forgets faster than noses do. Black workroom, hearth or stove corner, dry fuel, under 20% moisture, is step 1. The rest is choreography. Cross kindling so air can walk between. Aim for a blue base, steady yellow tips. Mark 3 notches on the damper rod. Clear, cook, sleep, so winter fingers don't have to think. If your chimney is old brick, a stainless liner and insulation jacket turn reluctant mornings into ready ones. Outside air kits keep tight rooms from losing their courage to flame. A CO alarm nearby is a modern candle test that never blinks. White room, sitting, study, weaving. Give eyes a ceiling that rests, lime or matte paint in soft bone. Reed screens or light curtains turn the sun into fabric. Place benches in the leeward crescent of the room so speech stays round and the kettle can whisper. A small, higher leeward slit or transom lets warm talk leave without dragging heat with it. Books and baskets need 40 to 55% RH. A $10 hygrometer keeps peace between paper and lungs. Bedroom sleep prefers air that moves like a sentence, not a headline. Crack a leeward sash or use a trickle vent. In winter, shorten the exchange with a 5-minute purge before bed instead of a long all-night leak. Keep beds a hand's breadth off exterior walls so quilts don't learn the cold. If radiators live under windows, leave curtains an inch short so warmth can rinse the glass. CO alarms on the sleeping level. No excuses. In hot climates, a slow fan that stirs, not shouts, helps skin find evaporative comfort. Pair it with a night purge, windows high, doors ajar, so the room drinks stars and forgets the day. Bathroom treat it like a tiny storm. Run the fan before the tap opens and for 15 to 20 minutes after the mirror clears. Silence doesn't mean dry. A boost switch on your HRV ERV is the quiet version of the same habit. Squeegee tile and glass, cups of water vanish in a minute. Warm towels dry faster. A rail or a brief fan burst beats a closed door and hope. Grout likes air. Cork likes honesty. Keep both clean so mold has nowhere to lecture. Laundry nook evaporation needs paths. Vent the dryer outdoors. If you air dry, give cloth a leeward window, a clip fan, and a short purge once you hang. In winter, begin with a 5-minute airing first. Make space in the room's air for what's about to arrive. Dehumidifier. Set 50 to 55% RH. Below that, would sulks and throats complain, basement and cellar basements lie. Meters don't. Hygrometers and an infrared thermometer tell you which wall is truly cold and damp. Outside, keep gutters faithful and soil sloped away. Inside, couple dehumidification with circulation. Supply in, return out, so the space isn't a stagnant pocket. If the furnace or boiler lives here, give it its own make-up air. Never force it to argue with a kitchen hood. Insulate cold pipes to stop summer rain from condensing out of thin air windows and vent short big airings, not long small ones. In winter, open wide for 5 minutes morning and evening. The air swaps, the furniture stays warm. In summer nights, run a cross breeze low to high. Air falls into cool rooms and leaves where stars are. Interior storms on single panes, weep holes clear on double panes. Blinds cracked at the top so glass can see the room and stay above the dew point. A thumb crack windward, a finger slit leeward, and rooms stop arguing chimney, flue, and roof sweep yearly, twice if you nurse shoulder season coals. Listen, a steady hush is health. A gulp is mischief. Cowls that turn with wind tame cross drafts. Flashings that remember rain keep flues dry, and dry flues draw. In hot towns, a high vent under the ridge and shaded inlets below make the roof an invisible wind catcher. Keep parapets honest. Sand sacks away after storms, slopes restored before the next rain writes its own path, materials that help, not hoard lime and clay plasters buffer humidity and forgive smudges. Solid wood breathes in sympathy. Vinyl wallpaper locks damp where you can't see the argument. Rugs dry. Wall-to-wall remember spills. Terracotta floors like a little oil and a lot of air. Plants. Use a spice, enough to soften winter dryness, not enough to push a corner into cloud. Small instruments and rituals hygrometer on the sill, CO alarm by the bed, a moisture meter for wood by the stove. A calendar that says, sweep flue when leaves fall. Wash lime when days lengthen. Clean hood baffles on the first market of the month. Test alarms when you change bedding from winter to summer. Candles for draft. Incense for seams. A hand at the vent to read the day's mood. Old tests that still tell the truth. Children and elders teach knots before numbers. Storm knot for screens. Sleep notch for dampers. Make the soft river a game. Find where ankles feel it at dusk. Elders get the leeward bench and the cup that lives near the kettle. Everyone learns the smell of good fire, honey and tea, versus apology, sour and wet. When in doubt, more air ordered, not guessed. Smaller fire, cleaner burn. If you inherit troubleshoot halos on ceilings, burn hotter, drier. Sweep sooner. Condensate crying on windows. Quick purges, blinds cracked at the crown, trickle vents. Persistent corner bloom. Move furniture out of hand. Invite sun. Suspect a thermal bridge and plan insulation. Headaches that arrive with heat. Test CO. Check the damper. Verify makeup air. Do not negotiate with symptoms. What emerges from these little courtesies is not gadgetry, but ease. Kitchens that forget storms by dessert. Baths that dry as if helped by weather. Beds that find the middle of the breath. Chimneys that speak in hush, not drama. The same law holds in clay huts and city flats. Give air a path in and a path out. Teach heat to linger without bragging. Choose surfaces that help rather than hoard. Repeat small rituals until the house unconsciously keeps them for you. Then a winter night feels like a tiled stove's afterglow, and a summer one like a windcatcher's single wooden tap after moonrise, rooms breathing, and people doing the same. Air is not only temperature. It is water deciding what it wants to be. Rooms that feel heavy are often rooms where invisible rivers have slowed. Steam from soup, wet coats on a chair, laundry surrendering last night's rain, showers that told stories too long. Moisture itself is not the villain. Lungs prefer a little softness. But when water chooses the wrong surface at the wrong hour, walls grow anxious and corners remember it in green. Tonight we'll listen to the small physics that keep winter windows from weeping, summer rooms from going woolly, and basements from inventing their own where the dot moisture's favorite word is somewhere. It will always go somewhere, into the air, into a wall, onto a cold pane, through a crack you forgot, or out a vent you meant to open. Comfort is teaching somewhere to mean outside or into materials that forgive. That begins with the dew point. The simple truth that warm air can cradle more vapor than cold air. Where warm, moist breath meets a colder surface, it loses its grip. The first cold surface in most houses is a winter window. Glass is the honest witness. It fogs to confess what the wall is feeling in silence. Old practice handled this by airing and lime. Morning. Windows cracked a coin's width. Bedding folded back. Damp towels banished to a breezier spot. Walls skimmed with lime plaster absorbed small sips and gave them back when the fire settled. Lime also kept mold suspicious with its gentle alkalinity. Floors of clay or wood were allowed to breathe. Varnishes that sealed utterly were avoided. Because a floor that can neither drink nor exhale becomes a rumour mill for damp, modern practice adds order. In winter, the day begins with a short, deliberate purge, 5 to 10 minutes of big openings rather than an hour of half-open teeth chatter. This swaps stale, wet indoor air for crisp, dry outdoor air that warms quickly and can accept more moisture without sulking on the glass. After cooking or showering, switch on a real ducted exhaust, not a recirculating pretender, and let it run a few extra minutes. A bathroom fan that leaves with the steam is worth more than a scented candle's apology. Laundry is weather in fabric. Drying clothes indoors without an exit turns a living room into an estuary. The remedy is choreography, a dedicated drying nook by a leeward window or near a trickle vent. A clip-on fan nudging air past cloth so evaporation is invited toward the exit. On cold days, a brief window purge after you start the load so the room's air can make space for the water that's about to arrive. If you have a heat recovery ventilator, HRV, ERV, set it to a slightly higher exchange rate during laundry and showers. It will trade your damp for the world's dry without throwing heat away. Basements need honesty more than heat. Moisture there often comes not from the air but from the ground. A dehumidifier can carry some of the burden. But the real friends are slope, drainage, and breath, gutters that don't daydream, soil that leans away from walls, footing drains that remember their job, and supplier return vents that keep the basement from being a stagnant pocket. When you do dehumidify, set the bucket to a modest 50 to 55% relative humidity. Below that, would sulks and noses complain. Above 60%, mold begins to interview for work. Kitchens right the air with boil and fry. Pot lids are humidistats disguised as good manners. They cut room moisture dramatically. Range hoods that actually exhaust outdoors matter more than their shine. Low noise persuades you to use them. Keep filters clean so air will trust the path. Pot skirts or tight burner pan fits reduce both steam and fuel use. In summer, take the sizzle outside if you can. In winter, let the last minutes of a simmer happen under a hood while a leeward window cracks the width of a coin. Bathrooms are small weather systems. A shower's fog contains less water than the towel holds afterward. Warm towels dry quickly if you lend them moving air. A short fan run, door ajar after the room's mirror clears, or a heated rail that acts like a tiny tiled stove. Squeegeeing glass and tile is not fussy. It's a minute that removes cups of water silently. Keep cork honest. Gaps and gummy seams are mold's favorite cul-de-sacs. If you have an ERV, consider a boost switch that runs a hard for 20 minutes after showers. Lungs prefer the swap to the fan's blunt exit. Windows deserve a little ceremony. In single-pane houses, interior storms, seasonal secondary panes, turn weeping glass into shy glass by lifting temperature a few degrees. In double-pane houses, broken seals fog between panes. No amount of airing will fix that. The unit needs replacing. Everywhere, a trickle vent or a tiny, well-placed inlet gives moisture a reason to leave there instead of here. Openings high and leeward are especially graceful. Warm damp loves to go up and away. On clear, cold nights, blinds and heavy curtains do insulate, but they also make the glass colder and encourage condensation on the room side. Crack them an inch at the top so air can wash the pane, insulation and breath at once. Materials can be allies or cages. Lime and clay plasters buffer humidity. Solid wood likes 40 to 55% RH and will politely expand and shrink around that center. Vinyl wallpapers and tight paints trap damp behind them, the architectural equivalent of smiling while you hold your breath. If a wall must be sealed, kitchen splash zones, showers, help the adjacent surfaces stay vapor open so the room still has places to negotiate. On floors, rugs dry faster than carpet. Carpet behaves like a diary that never forgets a spill. Thermal bridges create tiny indoor climates, that dark corner where the exterior wall meets concrete. The steel lintel that telegraphs winter into your plaster. The uninsulated box header over a window. Mold loves these small Arctic embassies. Insulation and overcladding are the grand fixes. The humble fix is air and light. Keep furniture a few inches off cold walls. Let sun touch the corners when it can. And teach warm room air to visit by not blocking radiators or low convectors with heavy drapes. Houseplants are green humidifiers. In winter, a handful of plants can lift a parched room back into comfort. In already damp rooms, they can tip the balance the wrong way. Use them like spice, a fern by the radiator, a rubber plant in a bright, drier corner, herbs in the kitchen where the hood can chaperone. Pebble trays add evaporation where you want it, near heat, not in a cold corner. Small tools turn guesswork into quiet certainty. A $10 hygrometer tells you if the room feels heavy for a reason. Aim for 40 to 50% in winter, 45 to 55% in summer. A thermometer in the coldest corner shows whether the corner is the problem or the whole room is confiding. A moisture meter for wood helps firewood become flame without fog. Under 20% MC is the difference between poetry and cough. Your nose is the oldest instrument. Clean, dry air smells like wool, paper, a line of citrus from lime. Stale damp smells like a memory that won't finish its sentence. If mold appears, treat it as a symptom, not a scandal. Tiny blooms on bathroom grout. Clean, rinse, dry, then change the routine. Longer fan run, shorter steam. A shadow behind a wardrobe. Move the piece out a hand's width. Lift a blind an inch at night. Teach warm air to visit. A persistent corner bloom. Suspect a thermal bridge or a hidden leak. Your cloth can erase the crop, but only insulation or repair will stop the farmer. Through all of this, the old rules still shine. Short big airings, not long small ones. Extraction where water is born. Kitchen and bath. Materials that help rather than hoard. Heat steady rather than dramatic. Habits rehearsed until they become background music. The house thanks you by feeling simple. Windows clear by themselves. Towels dry without drama. Pans steam less like a monsoon and more like a paragraph. And sleep arrives without a throat needing negotiation. Moisture is not the enemy. It is the place where comfort and health shake hands. Give it roots, give it buffers, give it reasons to leave where you choose. And rooms breathe with the calm of a tiled stove's midnight sigh or a windcatcher's single wooden tap after moonrise. Cities learn to breathe indoors with different lungs. Streets stacked windows over windows. Neighbors shared walls. Chimneys clustered like reeds at a riverbank. In that crowd, flame had to grow disciplined. The open hearth, dramatic, smoky, generous with sparks, gave way to devices that tamed fuel into steadier sentences. Coal ranges that cooked and heated without sulking, tiled stoves that stored a day of sun inside clay, and radiators that turn hot water and steam into warmth. You could lean your back against without explaining yourself to fire. Coal, the city's black punctuation, entered kitchens as iron grammar. The range sat squat and certain, its lids and doors like commas and semicolons you could lift with a hook. Anthracite liked air from beneath. Grates shook cinders down with. A brisk lever so fresh draft could rise and rewrite the flame. The oven stole heat from the flue on its way upward. A small damper plate, one clever gesture, decided whether more went to soup or chimney. You heard the range mood by ear. A soft purr when the drawer was loyal, a sulky hiss when ash was hoarding air. Housewives learned an urban liturgy. Shake, rake, feed, set the damper, wipe the nickel till it smiled. Soot no longer lived in rafters. It kept its apartment in the flue, where the sweep could evict it by appointment towns of the north perfected. A calmer technology, the tiled stove, cake loon, and cachalofen, masonry animals that dined fast and digested slow. Fuel burned quick and hot in a small chamber. Smoke wandered a labyrinth of hidden channels, surrendering heat to tile and brick until it was too tired to misbehave. Then, hours after flame slept, the stove sighed warmth in long, even breaths. Heat like that refuses drama. Children napped against tile bellies. Winter shirts hung on pegs near flues and woke kindly. Mornings began with a single feeding and a polite closing of iron eyes. Air stayed civil. No smoky tantrums, fewer dry. Coughs, less of that sour headache that coal stoves taught when dampers were stingy. Between range and tiled stove, another urban lung learned to hum, the boiler. In cellars and basements under brick continents of tenements, iron kettles taught water the habit of travel. Radiators upstairs, cast iron chrysanthemums, ribs, and scrolls, turned steam into silence. No open flame in the bedroom, no ash pan under the bed, just a tick as metal remembered growth, a sigh as valves opened, the faint seashell whistle of air leaving through a tiny vent. Steam was a river with manners. It moved even when windows were shut against soot or scandal. Families learned to bleed radiators as a winter rite, catching the first spit of water in a cup, listening for the clear breath that says, "Now the room is a chest that opens." In coal towns, breathing indoors became administrative. Flues were shared. Up party walls, dampers were labelled. The building hired a sweep the way it hired a porter. City air outside was no friend. Soot from other kitchens wrote its gossip on sills, so inside had to be better by design. Transom windows above doors lent rooms second throats. Air bricks at floor level gave stoves a private leash so drafts didn't drag across ankles. Even wallpapers joined the conspiracy. Lighter patterns for rooms that needed eye-cool, washable paints for places that would meet coal dust and survive the handshake. Gas arrived like a polite miracle, and a new worry. Blue flame without smoke. Instant heat, an oven that kept its temper. Kitchens could be white again, eyes could stay fresh, recipes could be punctual. But leaks taught cities to install noses made of brass and protocol, shut-off valves at the stove, pilots that behaved, inspectors who did not accept charm as proof. Later, electric coils and ovens traded soot for wires. Air changed costume. Fewer particles, more dryness. Humid pans returned to radiators. Kettles sang idle songs so winter didn't chap throats into complaint. Even then, grates and chimneys stayed, now mostly ceremonial. Their drafts repurposed to carry out a house's small exhalations when stews grew aromatic and conversation grew crowded. Ventilation itself became a craft you could measure. Factories learned stacks and roof monitors. Schools opened high clerestories that drank warm breath and let chalk dust admit defeat. Theatres borrowed air from under seats and returned a high. So perfume travelled like rumour and left no quarrel behind. The apartment adopted modest versions. A kitchen hood with a duct that found the roof. A bathroom vent that carried steam out before mould could compose its memoirs. In very tight buildings, glazed brick, double sash, cork that boasted, balanced. Ventilators traded stale for fresh through cross currents, the way two people share coats in a doorway and both remain warm. Tiled stoves bred urban cousins in iron. The parlour stove wore nickel buttons and mica windows that let fire wink without throwing sparks. Some lined their bellies with firebrick and staged a little secondary dance where smoke turned modestly into heat. Others admitted outside air by a dedicated pipe, so warm rooms didn't lose their courage to a hungry flame. The best stoves asked less attention than a fussy cat and returned more companionship than their small footprint suggested. People. Name them, as one names anything that keeps a hand warm for years. Steam heat learned shyness and then swagger. Early one-pipe systems wheezed. Later two-pipe systems glided. Traps and vents taught condensate how to leave without sulking. Radiators became furniture, painted enamelled white to look cooler than they felt, or bronze to announce dignity. In summer, they slept. In winter, they remembered sunlight, releasing it at midnight so hallways stayed brave. Tenants negotiated with superintendents by sound. Too many ticks meant air still trapped. Not enough meant the boiler was being cheap with love. The good buildings solved these at the basement. Clean burners, chimneys lined so drawer began on the first prayer. Make-up air balanced so backdrafts and headaches didn't attend supper. Through all this, the human tricks persisted. A thumbs. Width on a leeward sash after guests leave. Transoms tipped to carry laughter and cooking out. A kettle to sweeten dry air. Mats taken to the parapet for their weekly sunbath. Lime plaster stayed valuable because city light can be cruel. It softened glare and forgave smudges. Plants, rubber trees, ferns, became little indoor swamps that made steam unnecessary on good days. Even the soundscape mattered. A quiet draw. In the chimney, a soft radiator sigh, a hood that murmured rather than shouted. Rooms that breathe well do not raise their voices. Safety learned new names and older habits. Carbon monoxide meters sat where beds slept and boilers dreamed. Flues were brushed by appointment, not after omen. Gas pilots bowed to thermocouples. That proved they were alive before gas agreed to continue. Windows with weights and cords could now stop anywhere, and screens of copper let night air in without also admitting the small city wildlife that believes rent is optional. The aim was unchanged from the hut with a smoke hole and a black ceiling. Air that lets people rest, flame that behaves, surfaces that don't tell the story of yesterday on today's lungs. What urban rooms discovered is that breathing indoors can be both invisible and friendly. Fire moved downstairs or behind glass. Heat spread into tile and iron, into water and steam. Air learned routes, in through trickle vents and attic lungs, out through flues that forgot how to be dramatic. The city's noise stayed outside. Inside, the quiet had the timbre of far water and warm tile. And when someone cracked the window the width of a coin at midnight, winter did not rush in like a headline. It entered as a fact, and the room, practiced, adjusted. The house, row, flat, walk-up, terrace, still speaks this language. You can read it in scratches on a damper lever, in the shine of tile where a child leaned all February, in the small cup kept by a radiator for the ritual of bleeding air. Urban lungs, rural lungs, both prefer courtesy to cleverness, routine to invention, small adjustments to big speeches. The lesson holds across brick and field. Teach heat to stay, give air a path, appoint a chimney as archivist rather than tyrant. And the rest is a long evening in a room that forgets to be complicated. Old rooms taught patience. Today we add prudence. Fire still rates the air, but we now know its invisible dangers by name, chief among them, carbon monoxide, CO. The breathless gas with no scent that borrows oxygen from blood and leaves headaches, dizziness, and worse. The remedy is not fear. It is gentle engineering layered over old wisdom, better draft, cleaner flame, measured fresh air, and a few small sentinels that never sleep. Start with the flame's grammar, updated. Dry fuel remains rule 1. Next comes mixing. Air and fire must meet generously. Stove grates that admit air from below, baffles that lengthen the flame's path, and secondary air inlets that reburn smoke all shrink soot and CO. A modern, tight-fitting door turns a voracious hearth into a controlled stove. Glass isn't only for seeing, it keeps dilution air steady and combustion hot enough to finish its sentences. Chimneys learn 2 new manners, smooth and warm. Stainless liners inside old brick raise flue temperature so draft begins early and stays faithful. Insulation jackets keep that warmth on cold mornings when smoke might otherwise forget which way is up. Caps with wind cowls tame cross breezes. Mesh keeps leaves and birds from turning lungs into nests. A manometer or simple draft gauge is overkill for romance, perfect for safety. Think of it as a stethoscope for the flu. Fresh air is now formalized. Rather than relying on leaks, a dedicated outside air duct feeds the stove or hearth, small, insulated, and valved, so the room isn't robbed and backdrafts don't invent themselves when a bathroom fan, kitchen hood, or dryer exhales. In very tight houses, a balanced ventilator, HRV, VRV, trades stale air for fresh while borrowing heat or cool, quiet lungs for the whole home, not just the hearthroom. Soot meets filters. If a cook fire must live indoors, improved cook stoves with chimneys, rocket cores, or gasifier inserts turn smoky kitchens into calmer ones. Where fuel is dung or crop waste, a tiny electric fan, even solar, can supply primary air so flame burns blue and CO slinks away. Pots get skirts that hug them. Stoves get pot rests that keep flame close without crowding it. Efficiency is comfort pretending to be thrift. Sensors are the small saints. CO alarms on every sleeping level and near the fire room. Combination smoker heat alarms where cooking drama lives. Test monthly. Replace batteries on a holiday you'll always remember. Retire units on schedule. A simple digital CO display teaches bodies to trust numbers. 0 to 10 ppm is a well-behaved evening. 30 plus means air wants attention. Open, adjust, investigate. Maintenance becomes a season, not a chore. Sweep flues at least yearly, twice if you love shoulder season smouldering. Inspect door gaskets. If a banknote slips easily, smoke might. 2. Replace the rope. Scrape baffles clean so secondary burn can do its honest work. Empty ash into a lidded metal can that sleeps outdoors on stone, not on a porch of good intentions. Keep the woodpile off the ground and under roof. Moisture meters are tiny truth-tellers worth their price in quiet lungs. Rooms coordinate like an orchestra instead of a jam session. Don't run the kitchen hood at full gale while lighting the stove. Crack a nearby window a coin's width first, or open the outside air valve. If a basement appliance shares flue space or room air, give it its own vent path. Combustion appliances are polite when they don't have to share for desert houses and winter towns alike. Passive tricks still earn their keep. Reed screens or louvers to soften wind at the inlet. High leeward slits for warm breath to exit. Lime plaster to buffer humidity swings. Heavy masonry to store the day and exhale at night. Old craft, modern edges. Health signs stay humble and clear. Good nights have clear eyes, steady heads, quiet sleep. Bad nights announce themselves. Soot halos, sting in the nose, sleepy headaches, damp windows weeping in winter. The response is the same choreography as before, plus a meter and an alarm. More air where it's needed, hotter burns, drier fuel, earlier sweeps, kinder flames. The gift of these upgrades is not a shiny stove. It is a room that breathes on purpose, predictably. Old wisdom, small fire, steady draft, clean surfaces, wears new tools and produces the same feeling our ancestors sought: heat without boast, air without fuss, a flame that writes comfort but not consequences. Good breathing indoors is not guessed. It's read, like weather, like dough, like walls after rain. Families long before gauges learned a pocket set of trials so gentle they felt like manners. A candle's whisper, a slip of paper, a thread of smoke, a palm held to a vent. None of these are theatre. They are how a room tells you who it wants you to be today. The candle speaks first because flame has opinions. Hold it at shoulder height on the leeward side of the room. A steady, thin lean toward the flue means the room is exhaling kindly. If the candle waggles frantic where it should bow, cross-draft is showing off. Perhaps a door sitting opposite another, perhaps a window cracked too wide on the wrong wall. In black kitchens, the candle tests the hood's edge. Where its flame pulls up and away, smoke will likely keep faith with the throat. Paper is better than argument. A slip, no wider than 2 fingers, held across the flue mouth when the damper is set for stew should cling with a calm, even will. If it flutters or falls, the chimney is sulking. Open the windward casement a coin's width to give it a leash. At a casement itself, paper should sway just enough to prove that outside is remembered. If it plasters itself against the frame, wind is in a mood and screens should take their angled posture so air arrives as cloth, not as blade. There is also the smoke pencil, which is simply a sliver of incense, a stem of thyme on a coal, or a damp twist of cloth making a faint thread. Trace the room's seams with it. Over a door head, the smoke ought to stroll inward. Along the hood's lip, it should tighten and rise. Near the floor on the windward side, it should creep like a cat and then disappear under the hearth's elbow. Wherever smoke pools or scatters back into faces, the house wants a small correction. Damper 1 finger, window 1 thumb, screen 1 knot, mirrors and breath are winter's instruments. A small mirror set high on the leeward wall, facing the room, tilted a little, will fog if the room begins to hoard yesterday's air. The goal is not a perfect mirror. A faint, brief cloud after a roomful of people is honest. A persistent bloom means the house has forgotten to trade. Lower the top slit a finger and let conversation invite whether walls answer. 2. Lime near a busy window will darken an old tea shade when air is lazy. Plaster beside the flue will grow a faint grey thumbprint if flames have been indulgent with damp fuel. These are not scoldings. They are notes. Lime day and seasoned would answer both. The checklist becomes a choreography that takes less than a minute when learned. Morning damper to clear notch. Flue hums low. Windward casement. Coin width. Leeward slit. 2 fingers. Bedding to parapet. Mats to light. Hood's lip wiped with a soft cloth. Ember pot checked. If ember survived, fire rebuilt small and blue. If not, kindling crossed like reeds, fuel spaced for air before cooking paper test at flue. Windward crack widened if lazy. Pot height adjusted so flame licks, not chews. A pan of water near, not over, heat for winter rooms. In summer, wet cloth on jar shoulder by the inlet. Read screen set to edit glare. Glare wears eyes, and tired eyes forget to read air evening damper to hold notch. Candle leans steadily. Incense thread rises without apology. Hearth ash rake smooth. Tomorrow's ember nest ready. Casement closed to a thumb. Leeward slit left to dream. Kettle sighing, not shouting. Flame small, clean. Conversation a little slower than noon. Children are folded into this language. A girl learns the knot that sets a screen's storm posture before she learns letters. A boy is taught to hold a slip of paper steady as a proverb and to see what it tells him without being told. They become the house's small meters, reading draft with cheeks and wrists. Where is the soft river? An elder asks, and a child's bare ankle answers by walking to it. Not every sign lives in sight. Ears read the room, the flue's hush versus gulp, the kettle's steady vowel versus fret, the creak a shudder makes when wind wants mischief. Noses read it too. The difference between clean wood's hunted start and green wood's sour apology, between a brazier's respectable charcoal and a coal that asks for more air than it deserves. Palms on plaster read what is being stored and what is being surrendered. Warm along the flue path means the day's heat is banked. Cool at a windward jam means your leash is set. Season revises the exam. In summer, the tests are night tests. Does air fall down the tower like a good story and cross the room without tiring? A candle's flame should lean toward the leeward slit even with no fire lit. A damp cloth should dry in the time it takes to tell a short tale. In winter, the tests are gentler. Can you keep a scarf on a peg near the door without it fluttering like gossip? Can a lamp's halo stay round? Can a cat choose the leeward bench for sleep? Safety, the quiet chapter, is older than our modern words for it. Rooms that breathe well produce fewer headaches, fewer smarting eyes, fewer nights with coughs that linger. Families learn this by grandmother's wisdom long before pamphlets and gauges. The craft behind it remains the same. Dry fuel, honest flame, generous inlets sized to the fire, flues brushed when seasons turn, dampers set by habit not guess. Lungs thank routine more than gadgets, and so the house teaches breath without ceremony. Small trials, small answers, repeated until they become reflex. A candle's lean, a paper's cling, a thread of smoke that behaves. In that accumulation, air stops being a problem to solve and becomes a companion to listen to. Quiet, regular, trustworthy as the tick a tiled stove keeps or the single wooden tap a windcatcher makes after moonrise. The room is ready to sleep, and so are the people in it. Indoors, air leaves fingerprints. Where smoke lingers, ceilings turn the colour of old tea. Where drafts are clever, plaster remains pale as bone. Houses long ago learned to sort rooms by what the air writes on them. The black kitchen that welcomes flame and stain, the white rooms that keep light clean for weaving, prayer, reading, and sleep. Between them sits the modest art of cleaning the sky, coaxing soot into places where it's useful and persuading it to leave where it is not. The black kitchen is an honest room. Its rafters are polished ebony by years of thin smoke. Its hood wears a glaze of tar that is cured into a weatherproof skin. Hooks descend like punctuation, commas for small pots, dashes for kettles, a stout period for the meat that dries while winter thinks. Here the ceiling is high on purpose. Smoke is allowed to pool above head height while work breathes below. Windows are narrow and placed like careful questions. One low windward casement for the fire's leash, a higher slit for the room's reply. When storms visit, the hood's throat narrows and the door curtain ties into its firm knot. The kitchen keeps its conversation gentle. Next door, white rooms practice refusal. Lime plaster is their temper, alkaline, bright, and sympathetic to lungs. Lime's pores take tiny sips of moisture and return them when heat grows insistent. Soot will sit on lime for a time, but lime does not fall in love easily. Walls are burnished with flat stones until they remember a riverbed. Light ricochets and loses its glare. Floors carry rush or wool rather than ash. Benches grow from plaster so there are fewer dark seams to harbour dust. If cooking must step into a white room, It does so on a brazier the size of a patient cat, and the window's coin-width crack is negotiated first. Between black and white is the passage where air is edited. Reed screens live here, hanging in pairs like eyelids, one angled for glare, one for draft. A shallow clay tray waits on a sill, ready to hold a skin of water in summer so passing air will brush cooler. A narrow shelf keeps a brush and a pan of ash water, the gentle cleaner that coaxes smudges without scalding plaster. Children do the small works, tapping soot flakes from the hood's lip into a bowl, sweeping a fine dusting of ash across the hearthstones to quiet yesterday's sparks, carrying a jar of fresh lime wash like milk to where a wall once its tired places brightened. Soot itself has a second life. Thin, dry soot from clean burns mixes with oil to make a black the calligrapher trusts. Sifted and folded into lime, it strengthens a mortar for small repairs and turns hairline patches into whispers. Shiny creosote, the proud, tarry kind, cannot be persuaded. It must be brushed away while the moon is thin and the wind honest. Sweeps listen to flues as doctors listen to chests. A fine hiss for smooth brick, a dull clog when the throat remembers too much winter. The brush rattle is a seasonal sound, like cicadas in reverse. Summer flues talking themselves clean for new recipes. Ceilings keep health as surely as herbs do. Where rafters are black, insects lose their appetite and roof thatch dries quicker after rains. Where ceilings stay pale, eyes rest, and work that needs discernment, mending, writing, bead stringing, can last longer without headache. Housekeepers learn to move tasks with the light, dyeing in the kitchen's cool morning, weaving in the white room's late window. Stories everywhere after lamps are turned low and the damper finds its sleep notch. The house's calendar is also a map of Air Lime Day is a small festival of improvement. Slaked lime, quieted in water days ago, waits in a lidded pot. A pail is perfumed with a thread of linseed or tallow. The brush is wide and soft and behaves like weather in a good mood. Walls are stroked rather than painted. Niches receive extra kindness around their lips. The underledge of the windward casement earns a careful gloss because fingers ask it for balance 100 times a week. The room brightens not into glare but into the color of a gentle thought. Children leave handprints on the floor for an hour. Then the house, mercifully, forgets hearth iron participates. A backplate, warm to dignity, radiates deep heat so flames can be smaller and smoke thinner. Grates lift fuel so air can come from below. Andirons keep logs honest and off their smoky knees. A trivet turns simmer into certainty. Pot hooks offer altitude to recipes. Even the broom is a tool for breath. Fresh twigs scent the room. And sweeping is a daily way to rehearse the floor's slope toward the door. Keeping drafts civil and ash obedient, white ceilings are not a boast. They are a promise kept. They say, in these rooms, air will not arrive with a story already written on it. In a year of careful fires and open windows, a white ceiling grows the soft patina of use. Lamp halos at corners, a faint warmth above where people sit, a shadow near the vent that proves it works. On the week where smoke forgot itself, lime makes amends with a single afternoon and the long patience of drying. Clean does not mean fragile. It means ready, and so the house wears two faces comfortably. One room bears history on its skin, soot-like ink that tells of meals and storms and winter councils. The other offers a blank page for the eye to rest upon. Air moves between them as news does, edited by doors, calmed by screens, welcomed by lungs. In that choreography, breathing indoors becomes not just possible, but quietly graceful. A house that breathes well is a polite host. It knows how wide to open its mouth and when to close it. Windows are not glass pictures. They are instruments, set to different notes for winter, for the fat rains, for the baked stillness of late summer. A narrow casement on the windward side cracked the width of a coin gives the fire its leash. A higher slit on the leeward wall offers a place for warm breath to leave without sulking. Between those two, the room's air learns to walk rather than stampede. Vents are small promises. A gable slot with a wooden hat turns gusts into threads. A round clay oculus above the lintel steals stale air without letting with a swagger in. In black kitchens, the hoods throat partners with a smoke shelf. a shallow ledge that folds the rising plume so it kisses the flue and commits to leaving. In sleeping lofts, a finger-sized vent is enough. The goal is not to chase heat but to prevent the slow gathering of yesterday's soup and today's breath. Season decides the script. In winter, openings behave like eyelids, half-closed, blinking only to keep vision clear. The damper is marked to its hoard notch, the windward casement the width of a thumb, the leeward slit barely more than a thought. Fire runs small and blue at the base. A kettle adds a whisper of moisture so lungs do not go austere. On the first warm day, everything tilts, damper open, vents wider. Doors on their vent latch, bedding and mats greeting the parapet. And the flue invited to forget the last months in one long exhale. Summer's grammar reverses the currents. Fires shrink to embers or move outdoors. Cooking leans on clay ovens and charcoal braziers set where draft is honest. Wind catchers, if the town knows them, turn night into a guest. Cool air falls down the tower, crosses the room's belly, and leaves at the high slit with smoke tucked inside it like a letter. Where there are no towers, the same idea is drawn at house scale. A low inlet shaded by lattice and a high outlet under the eave. A wet cloth naps on a jar's shoulder, teaching the draught to carry a sip of cool on its tongue. Windows are tuned as much by shade as by size. Reed screens turn glare into a fabric of light that behaves kindly. Their weave can be loosened for talk, tightened for sleep, angled to steal the teeth from a dry wind. A small shelf under a casement earns a clay tray of water in summer. The trickle of evaporation writes comfort into air without becoming fog. In winter, that shelf holds a lamp instead, the flame's little convection curling toward the leeward slit and encouraging the room to trade air without losing its temper. Materials remember. Lime plaster does not only reflect light. It breathes, wicking tiny sips of moisture and returning them when the day is bossy. Fired clay lattice, Mashrabia's humbler cousins, filters both heat and sound. Street noise arrives scattered, and even voices become more civil. Thick earthen walls hold the day like a thought and let it go at night in a tone that helps sleepers find the middle of their breath. Openings have etiquette. Doors are almost never perfectly opposite. Crossdraft is a braggart that makes flames rude and noses complain. A corner inlet and a high opposite outlet are friendlier. Children learn the house's map by where threads of cool run along the floor in late afternoon. Cats, who are born practical, already know. In storm weather, screens tie into their tight posture and the smallest vents do the work. The house keeps breathing, but with lips pursed against the sand, cleaning is part of breathing. Flues are brushed at the turn of seasons. Vents are checked for nests with the softest hand. A house that breathes well still owes swallows a welcome. Casements are rubbed with a cloth dampened in ash water so their edges seal without sticking. The marks on the damper rod, the ones that mean stew, bread, sleep, are renewed with a nail so a winter evening can be set by feel in the dark. Older roofs teach the final lesson. Stack effect is not jargon but weather tamed. Warm air climbs. Give it a path and it will take the room's old stories with it. Cool air falls. Invite it from shade and it will arrive with good manners. Between those two, people sit lower, talk softer, and find that eyes stop smarting and heads stop buzzing. Breathing indoors becomes the architecture of patience written in wood, clay, and a few careful inches of open space. A room's air is written first by its fuel. Good breathing begins not at the vent but at the woodpile, where logs have been allowed to forget the tree. Dry wood is patient. Wet wood is gossip. Seasoned sticks knock together with a hollow note. Their ends are checked like old hands. Bark loosens as if the log were undressing itself for the fire. When suchwood meets flame, smoke is a brief preface. When greenwood burns, smoke tries to become the whole book. Pete writes a different sentence. Low, brown, steady, smelling of moss turned to memory. Dung cakes, common where trees are shy, burn with a clean, pale flame if fully dried. Mixed with a handful of twig, they lift a kettle without fogging a room. Charcoal is the quietest guest of all, nearly smokeless, hot as a plan, but needing a watchful eye and a breath of fresh air because it is greedy for oxygen. Coal, when it enters history's kitchen, asks for taller chimneys, for grates that feed it air from below. 4 dampers that can edit its enthusiasm before soot begins to proclaim itself on ceilings and lungs. Craft separates cough from comfort. Fire is built like a sentence. Tinder, the opening. Kindling, the argument. Fuel, the story. A small bed of ash keeps heat from sinking into a cold hearth. 2 sticks laid with an honest gap invite air to participate. Kindling is crossed like woven reeds so oxygen can walk between. Some houses teach the top-down method. Large pieces at the bottom, then smaller, then kindling on top, so smoke is burned as it rises through newborn flame. The result is a room that clears its throat once, then sings. A flame's color speaks in diagnostics. Blue at the base, good air, full burn. Yellow with lazy tips, undervented, the damper sulking. Orange roaring, too much draft, warmth sprinting up the flue instead of lingering in the cheeks. A thread of grey curling into the room means turbulence. Perhaps a door opened opposite the hearth, perhaps the kettle's base crowding the fire's grammar. The fix is architectural and modest. Turn the damper a finger. Crack the windward casement the width of a coin. Slide the pot a handspan toward the hearthfront where eddies are kinder. Pots and ovens are air shapers as much as cookers. Round-bellied clay breathes. Its porous skin buffers boil and returns a calmer steam, adding a sip of humidity to winter rooms that get too efficient at drying. Tall kettles list toward heat like sunflowers. Wide pans spread labor out so flames can practice democracy. In brick ovens, a shallow smoke shelf above the mouth catches the rush and folds it upward. Door small, throat smooth, floor swept. These 3 rules let bread bake in a chamber that keeps its dignity while the chimney removes what must go. Humidity is a companion, not a cure. Too little, and lungs petition with a whispering cough. Too much, and plaster remembers it too readily. Green creeping in where stories should live. So the room practices balance. A kettle sits where it can exhale without gossip. A wet cloth rests on a clay jar's shoulder in summer to cool both jar and air. In winter, a pan of water is moved a hand's breadth away from the hottest stones so it does not sulk into a dense fog. Herbs help shape the feeling of breath. Thyme and bay clean the nose. Cedar sweetens a brazier and persuades insects to rethink their plans. Mint in the floor basin turns a draft into a polite sentence. Soot management is a weekly kindness. A brush with bristles of cane or birch reads the flue like braille. A weighted rod carries the message upward. The sweep listens for the ring of brick versus the thud of creosote. Thin, dry soot falls like dark snow. Honest, ordinary. Shiny, tarry flakes warn of cool fires and wet fuel. The remedy is hotter burns, drier wood. Fewer dampers half-closed in a miser's mood. Ashes sifted, embers rescued into a clay-lidded pot, tomorrow's courage, fine ash saved for soap, a pinch scattered on the hearthstones to quiet sparks. Rooms organize themselves around breath. The sleeping loft, if there is one, sits above the hearth shoulders but below the smoky memory at the peak. A small vent at the gable keeps the loft from hoarding yesterdays. Benches draw a crescent on the leeward side, far enough that faces are lit by fire, not licked by it. The child's stool finds the corner with the smartest air, close to warm masonry, a pace from the floor draft, exactly under the place where the hood no longer mutters. Grandmothers didn't guess these positions. They negotiated them for decades. Regional rooms keep their signatures. In the Maghreb, braziers of charcoal live near lattice windows. Windcatchers borrow the night and escorts smoke like a courteous uncle seeing guests out. In Scandinavia, tall tiled stoves breathe slowly, exhaling long after flame is gone. Air is renewed by a tiny inlet bored through the wall and hidden behind a bench so cold air first meets wood and manners. In the steppe yurt, a low stove exhales to the smoke hole, tuno, at the crown. Rafters blacken like polished ebony, proof that rain will bead and insects will think twice. On Japanese winter nights, the aurore's thin smoke cures bamboo above the rafters, turning future baskets into weatherwise tools. Health rides quietly under all this craft. Fewer hours with eyes smarting, fewer lungs irritated by invisible tar, fewer headaches from a room that forgot to trade air. Children sleep heavier when fires burn blue at the base and kettles whisper instead of scream. The house, kept in this balance, smells of wool, wood, a line of cedar, and the mild, honest ghost of yesterday's soup. It is the scent of breathing done on purpose. The promise of smoke, soot, and air is not perfection. It is attention paid in small coins. One more month of seasoning, one finger on a damper, one thumb of casement, one brush down a flue. Add them together and a winter evening becomes something like a lullaby. Heat present but not boastful, air moving but not restless, flame contained but not sad. A room that breathes lets people do the same. The first good hood is less an invention than a confession. Smoke wants a path, not a prison. A canopy of wood and lime plaster is hung like an upside-down boat above the hearth, lowered just enough to catch the muddled air where it gathers, high enough to let a tall pot breathe. Its sides flare not to look pretty, but to forgive clumsy draughts. Curves herd wayward eddies toward a throat where rising heat can teach them manners. Black kitchens turn calmer. Voices grow rounder. The kettle finally keeps a steady vowel. That throat becomes a short flue, then a taller one, then brick learns to be spine. At first, the flue is simply vertical because up is obvious. Later, masons discover that a gentle taper, wider at the hood, narrower at the sky, helps the column of warm air grip itself and climb. A smoothed inner surface steals less heat. Rounded inner corners keep turbulence from sulking. Somewhere, a bricklayer absent-mindedly offsets a joint and invents a tiny spiral in the masonry. The twist coaxes smoke to turn rather than stall. Draft improves. People cough less. Draw is the chimney's character. On a good evening you can hear it. A low, steady hush, not a gulp. Too weak a draw and smoke comes back with a wounded look. Too strong and fuel behaves like a boast, eating itself to ash before the stew has learned patience. So the damper arrives, a hinged plate of iron tucked in the flue, reachable by a rod and a habit. Winter evenings ask for a narrowed throat to keep warmth lingering. Spring mornings prefer a generous opening to clear last night's story. The best houses collect little marks on the rod, scratches that mean stew hour, bread heat, sleep. The damper becomes a domestic clock you set with your wrist above the roofline. The chimney earns a hat, cowls that turn with the wind, pots with throats like trumpets, caps that shed rain and leer at gusts. Each district swears by its own weather grammar. On coasts, cowls swivel like listening ears, snatching draughts from whichever direction the day is improvising. On high plains, squat pots resist crosswinds that would rather push than pull. In snow country, a tall stack clears drifts and sunken roofs. In dusty towns, a gauze of mesh keeps grit from joining recipes. All of them are manners taught to air inside. The hearth shrinks as knowledge grows. A wide, wasteful mouth narrows into cheeks that reflect heat back to the room. A low iron bar lets pots hover where flame is a suggestion rather than a sentence. A back wall wears a thin iron plate that radiates like a quiet sun. Side ovens borrow flue heat as it climbs, baking bread on the chimney's way out. Soot no longer glazes rafters. Instead, it inscribes the flue where sweepers can court it with rods and weighted brushes. Cleaning becomes a season, done when sap rises, done when leaves fall, always with a ladder that knows the roof's temperament. Elsewhere, cousins of the chimney flourish. The Russian stove fattens into a masonry animal, a sleeping platform on top, a labyrinth of channels inside. Fuel is burned fast and hot. Gases meander through brick intestines that store warmth all day. In Northern Europe, tiled stoves, cakeloon, kashelofen, turn rooms into instruments. Glazed tiles slow and smooth heat into a long, civilized chord. In desert towns, wind catchers pull night into rooms while a brazier's thin smoke slips obediently into that downhill flow and leaves like a guest who knows when to go. In Japan, the irori gains a hood or a shoji-screened smoke path. In Korea, the ondel warms floors by teaching flue gases to think like rivers under stone ash. That grey letter from yesterday's fire becomes a tool rather than a chore. Warm ash tucks around an ember to keep it dreaming till dawn. Cold ash dries wet boots, sweetens the privy, polishes tin, and, when leached, lends light to soap pots. A thin pan of ash in the hearth's belly will catch sparks before they invent stories. Soot, troublesome if proud, turns humble when mixed with lime or oil, becoming pigment, putty, and the black that inscriptions prefer, windows learn to collaborate with chimneys. A thumb-width crack on the windward side gives the fire a leash. A higher, leeward vent lets warm air leave on summer evenings when coals are only memory. Cross-drafts are temptations. Houses teach themselves to avoid placing a door opposite a hearth unless they enjoy drama. Screens, shutters, and the old wicker guard survive because flame is social but needs a chaperone. And then there is airing, the weekly reset. On a cool morning, hearth cold, damper wide, doors latched in their vent position, the house breathes like a lung between chores. Bedding meets parapet. Mats see the sun. The flue exchanges last week's soup of smells for sky. The room returns to its resting note, wool, lime, a suggestion of wood ready to remember fire. What began as a smoky apology has become choreography. Hood gathers, throat persuades, flue lifts, damper edits, cowl negotiates, room relaxes. Breathing indoors turns from survival into comfort, and comfort into the gentle, durable luxury of air that knows where to go. Imagine stepping into a winter room before chimneys were fashionable, timbers dark as tea, rafters shiny with a century of soot, a small fire practicing patience on packed earth. The hearth is not yet a fireplace. It is a circle of stones where flames stay humble. Smoke rises because hot air wants to be higher, but it does not leave politely. It gathers at the ridge like a slow river, wandering until it finds a kindness in the roof, a lifted tile, a louver that knows how to wink at weather, a small hole that grew and shrank with the season's sternness. People sit low, where air is heavier and kinder. The room smells of wood and wool, a sweetness of peat in some countries, straw and ash in others. This is breathing indoors when breathing was still a negotiation. Soot, which seems like a nuisance to a hurried age, is quietly busy. It coats rafters until they turn the color of rain at dusk. In that coat lives a little defense. Smoke dries thatch, persuades insects to take their intrigues elsewhere, cures hams and fish that hang from hooks like sleeping commas. A child, lying on a rush mat, watches ribbons of smoke right on the rafters and learns the weather from it. Sharp and straight on dry days, lazy and wondering when snow will fall, cranky with a cross breeze. The fire is the house's teacher and its gossip both, and moves because we nudge it. A door is propped just a hand's width, and the room grows a draught that behaves like a narrow stream. A shutter is set to the winter tilt, catching the wind's shoulder instead of its chest. A wicker screen is planted at the hearth's leeward side so flame learns to talk rather than argue. In some places, a canopy, an early hood, hangs above the fire on iron chains, not to trap smoke but to convince it. The hood mouths toward a vent, and the vent year by year becomes a short, experimental throat. You can hear the evolution in the way the room sounds. Fewer coughs, more murmurs, a kettle able to hold a note instead of hissing defenses. Elsewhere, stone houses learn a different trick. They open a slit high in the gable and give it a hat the rain cannot bully. The slit is small enough that winter won't make promises the hearth can't keep, yet large enough that smoke finds purpose. People call it by local names, louver, lantern, wind-eye, and decorate it with a wooden grid that turns gusts into threads. Children learn to sleep with their heads toward the leeward wall, because air has preferences, and rest is better when you obey them. The black kitchen appears in the record, deliberately sooty, its walls glazed with years of cooking. Not a disgrace, but a workspace that wears proof of skill. Here the ceiling is high because smoke deserves a ceiling to haunt. Here the windows are narrow because draught loves to be invited, not commanded. Hooks drop from beams at regular intervals like metronomes. Pots crowd them at various heights to find the temperature their recipes believe in. A spitzkrieg is the hour hand. The stew's slow punctuation is the minute. Soot thickens into a protective varnish that accepts heat without flinching and laughs quietly at rain's attempts to enter farther east. A clay hearth set in a pit, the tanner or tandoor, teaches a compact lesson in flow. Heat climbs the inner wall and rolls inward. Dough slaps to that hot curve and bakes at the seam where flame becomes air. Smoke rises in a narrow plume and leaves before it can colonize the room. People stand with their faces in the cooler scroll of air that wraps the oven. Bread arrives with steam that feels like weather improved by hand. In Japan, The Aurori gathers family to a square of coals kept modest under a hung kettle, the smoke combing the rafters until they shine black as river stones. In Rome and its cold provinces, a hypocaust lifts floors on. Small pillars so hot breath can stroll beneath and find its way up wall flues, an underfoot whisper that asks smoke to serve without. Swagger, all of these are variations on the same grammar. Give hot air an invitation upward. Offer cool air a calm door in. Never let the two meet rudely. Over centuries, the hood grows a neck, the neck learns to be brick, and brick becomes the chimney, a spine set against weather. It is not an invention in a flash. It is a long apology perfected. With a chimney, rooms can grow lower and warmer. With a damper, the spine can be taught to speak in different voices. Winter's hoarding whisper, spring's generous pour, but even the chimney remembers its elders. In desert towns, wind catchers pull night air into rooms while smoke from a small brazier twines itself into that draft and exits without making anyone's eyes a river. In northern, snow-weighted cottages, a fox pane is cracked only the width of a thumb, so cold can visit without moving in. The hearth obliges by drawing a delicate, steady breath that keeps smoke faithful to the flue. In ship's galleys, a cowl turns with the wind like a listening ear, snatching smoke as if it were a rumour. The lesson everywhere is the same. Treat air as a partner, not a servant. There is also the housekeeping of breathing. Ash is sifted into a pan not just to clean but to save a small core of ember for morning. Warm ash insulates like the memory of yesterday's fire. Soot is brushed when the moon is thin, less wind to play tricks at the roof, then tamped in a bucket for soap makers and plasterers who know how to turn waste into work. Floors are strewn with fresh reed or rush after a smoky season. Feet learn to be quiet on that small meadow, and the room smells of rivers even in a town that has not seen one for a year. Health speaks in low tones, too. Eyes sting less when flame is narrow and dry. Lungs complain less when wood is seasoned and kind. A kettle placed at the edge of the hearth returns a sip of moisture to a room that has been too dutiful about drying. Herbs join the draught, thyme over a stew, cedar in a brazier, mint in the water tray under the windward screen. So breathing is not only possible but pleasant. People sit where their grandmother sat because grandmothers already made maps of comfort. Low, leeward. Within arm's reach of warmth and a step's reach of fresher aia doso, the room before the chimney is not a mistake waiting to be corrected. It is a long classroom. 1,000 little experiments, tilting a shutter, lifting a tile, hanging a hood, raising a pot, moving a chair 2 hands to the left, compose a memory the house keeps in its bones. When finally a mason lays the first true flue, the house does not become different. It becomes articulate. Smoke leaves in a sentence instead of a sigh. People breathe as if someone has opened a book and found the page that was always meant for tonight. The rules of kind air don't change. The costumes do. Here are 3 choir houses, a desert courtyard, a Nordic stove flat, and a monsoon veranda home, each teaching the same grammar: invite, guide, release, in their own accent. Point 1, desert courtyard, night rivers and day shelters plan. Rooms face inward to a small court. Thick earthen walls, adobe or rammed earth, hold the day and let it go at night. A modest wind catcher feeds the summer room daily choreography. Dawn, night purge ends, shaded low inlets close to a coin's width. High leeward slit stays a finger. Breakfast on the cool side of the court. Noon, reed screens at firm angle, kitchen shifts to clay oven outside the living rooms, floor runnel wetted for 2 degrees of mercy. Dusk, wind catcher panels open wider, jars and walls exhale. Beds walk to the roof under a low parapet windbreak. Hardware, ductless mini-split for shoulder seasons, portable HEPA for dust weeks, ERV on low with intake tucked away from lanes. Lime plaster everywhere, clay lattice at windows. Mistakes avoided. No glassy west wall, no opposing doors making a sand broom of the hall, no big fans shouting in hot stillness, only slow stir over mats. Result: eyes stop squinting, skin stays dry not sour, rooms feel like shade that learn to move. Point 2, Nordic tiled stove flat, slow heat, clean exhale plan. A pre-war apartment with deep windows, a central cake loon, tiled stove, and a tiny kitchen on an exterior wall. Daily choreography. Morning, one honest firing, small, hot load. Stove channels drink heat, exhale all day. ERV HRV low, supply to bedroom and living, exhaust from bath kitchen. Cook hour, ducted hood on low before flame, lids on, back burners. 2-minute post-cook purge, bedroom door closed till air clears. Evening, co-check, less than 900 ppm, during guests, trickle vents open, a 5-minute night purge before sleep hardware. MERV 13 in the air handler, quiet bath fan, less than or equal to 0.7 SON, with 20-minute timer, portable HEPA beside the sofa for candle nights, rare, short, beeswax. Materials. Lime wash over plaster, oiled wood floors, wool rugs that sun well. Interior storm panels for winter weeping windows. Mistakes avoided. No recirc-only hood, no oversized fan that howls, no curtains draped over radiators, no scented cleaners blooming terpenes into ozone days. Result. Tile keeps a midnight sigh, air trades places without drafts, winter mornings arrive without sandpaper throat. Point 3. Monsoon veranda house, wet air, honest exits plan. A raised timber house with deep eaves, wrap verandas, high clear-story vents, and a louvered kitchen linter. Seasonal choreography. Dry season, stack couple, low-shaded inlet plus high clear-story, runs passive, ERV optional, on low at night. Pre-monsoon heat, night rivers wide, beds near floor, ceiling fans stern not shout, cooking shifts outdoors at dusk. Monsoon weeks, extraction becomes law, kitchen and bath on boost, laundry at a leeward bay with clip fan, squeegee ritual after showers, dehumidifier to tilde 50-55% RH hardware. Dual hose portable AC in 2 rooms for peak heat nights, HEPA with. Carbon pad for city haze overlaps, gutter guards and honest downspouts, drainage is air's friend. Materials. Lime or clay interior, mold skeptical, dense hardwood floors that dry, woven reed ceiling panels that buffer sound and glare, mistakes avoided. No sealed vinyl wall skins, no indoor drying in the middle of the living room, no vent fans. That dump into attic, no inward opening windows without rain eyebrows. Result. Room smell of wooden rain, towels dry by evening, corners stay bright, sleep lands even when cloud have opinions, threads they share, and you can copy anywhere, edges matter, shaded low inlet, controllable high outlet. Steady background. Short events, ERV HRV low and always, big, brief purges. Filtration right-sized, MERV 13 in ducts, HEPA where people are, carbon when odors a smoke visit. Materials that help, lime or clay, solid wood, wool, surfaces that buffer humidity and light. Quiet first, low velocities, smooth ducts, inline fans, isolation pads. Numbers for sanity, CO under tilde 1000 ppm, RH 40 to 50% winter, 45 to 55% summer. PM 2.5 calm outside cooking do a 1-page retrofit from these 3 at a ducted hood, short, straight, plus tiny makeup inlet. Fit interior storm panels and crack leeward vents on a timer. Install a through-wall ERV for the bedrooms if ducts are a dream. Upgrade to MERV 13. Tape filter edges. Keep spares. Park a quiet HEPA by the bed and desk. Low, always. Lime wash the harsh wall. Raise curtain hems above radiators. Add a jump duct over the tight bedroom door. Write the ritual. Morning purge, post-cook purge, bath boost to mirror honest, solstice filter check. These homes are different climates telling the same story. Comfort is choreography, not horsepower. When plans respect wind and light. When machines hum instead of boast. When materials cooperate, the air turns generous. You don't notice the engineering. You notice the hush, the way conversation doesn't race, the way sleep arrives without persuading, the way windows stay clear like a thought you can finally finish. We've wandered from smoke holes to tiled stoves, from wind catchers to ERVs, from soot-black rafters to white lime ceilings. The lesson hasn't changed. Invite, guide, release. Before we close the book, here's a single calm page you can keep on the fridge, an everyday choreography for kind air, plus a short epilogue to tuck you in daily, the small rhythm, morning purge, 3 to 5 minutes windows wide. Then shut. Walls keep heat, air trades places. Kitchen, hood on low before heat, lids on, back burners. Keep baffles clean. Bath, fan on from first drop to mirror honest, usually 15 to 20 minutes. Humidity, winter 40 to 50%, summer 45-55%. Adjust kettle or dehumidifier, not mood. Quiet filter, portable HEPA on low where you breathe, better desk, all day weekly, the simple reset, vacuum returns and grills. Wash or tap pre-filters. Sun what will forgive it, rugs, quilts, pillows, UV plus breeze equals older than chemistry clean. Wipe the hood baffles. Squeegee showers. Empty dehumidifier buckets. Check window weep holes. Monthly, the little service, inspect HVAC filter, MERV 13 if your system allows. Tape edges if the rack is sloppy. Check CO once in each favorite room during peak use. Less than 1000 ppm feels crisp. Walk the house at night. Listen for hiss or whistle. Open balancing dampers. Fix the restriction, not the grill, seasonally, the hinge points, autumn, sweep flues. Step up to MERV 13. Test CO alarms. Cure fresh paint in a sacrificial room with short, big purges. Winter. Interior storms on single panes. Raise curtain hems above radiators. Scratch clear a cook asleep on the damper rod. Spring. Ventilate at night early. Filter by day. Wash screens. Bake out new furniture in one room for a week. Summer. Shade west. Run night rivers, low in a high out. Close house by 9 a.m. ERV, HRV low and steady events, tiny playbooks, guests. Pre-ventilate to less than 800 ppm. HEPA low. 2-minute purge between courses. Smoky day. Latch. Tape leaks. HVAC recirc plus MERV 13. Clean air room with HEPA. Purge only when AQI dips. Big fry. Hood low plus back burner. Crack leeward window a coin's width. 2-minute purge after plating. Laundry indoors. Leeward nook plus clip fan. Brief purge once you hang. Keep RH mid-40s to low 50s. Placement sheets. Where air likes to live. Inlets low and shaded. Outlets high and leeward. Supplies near doors or ceilings to mix, not draft. Returns big and slow. Beds a hand from cold walls. Books and woolen rooms with mid-RH. Plants a spice, not swamp, by light and warmth, not in corners. Materials that help you, not haunt you, lime or clay on walls. Oiled wood and linoleum underfoot. Wool or cotton where skin meets air. Avoid vinyl wall skins and forever stain guards. Store solvents in a detached or well-vented space numbers, not to obsess, just to know, CO, 800 to 1000 ppm pleasant. 1200 equals purge. RH, winter 40 to 50%, summer 45 to 55%. PM 2.5, spikes at cooking. If it lingers, upgrade filtration or routine. Noise, bedrooms low equal to 30-35 dB, A. Quieter systems are systems you'll keep on, tiny fixes with outsized calm interior storm panels. Door undercuts or jumper grills for rooms that close. Dedicated makeup vent near the range so the hood doesn't inhale from the garage. Neoprene pads under fans, ERVs. Long sweep bends. Larger grills to slow the hiss. A pebble tray by heat to catch drips and evaporate where it's kind. A pocket hygrometer, co-meter. Painter's tape near a leaky sash. Spare MERV 13 bagged and dated. A sleepy epilogue houses learn to breathe one mistake at a time. A tile lifted. A hood lowered. A vent lipped against the rain. A child told to listen for the soft river at ankle height. We have better nouns now. PM 2.5, ERV, MERV, but the verbs are the same. Invite, guide, release. Keep the flame small and honest when you use it. Or let machines hum on your behalf when you don't. Let light arrive as cloth, not glare. Let walls help, not hoard. Trade air in big, brief gestures, and let the rest of the day be quiet that if you remember nothing else, remember this: a room that breathes well disappears. You notice conversation, not air. Sleep, not systems. The scent of bread, not the story of last night's fry. That is the luxury the oldest huts and the newest shells both reach for. The luxury of background ease, sleep now. The house knows the tune.